Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the USS Dilamus Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dilamus Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek: Preservations.
I know Joe had mentioned you're going to confront the XO and CO, but with Adam's extra information, does that alter your plans any, Joe, or is there anything you wish to add into that?
It's strong evidence that Rawlog is in on this because they specifically parked us on the opposite side. But that could be because they're running secret Federation operations out of here.
Indeed.
Because this could be counterintelligence against all of these pirate activities. And the best way to counteract pirates is to not let pirates know that you're trying to counteract them. I think we're still on the plan of confronting the COXO in the guise of giving them a status report.
Right.
So Ocean, myself, Najar, and Nilan. Mr. Tarai, I want you back on the ship with the finger on the button to get us get the ship undocked and maneuvered in case things go sideways.
Yes, sir.
As we begin, the members of the crew, save Tanari, or members of the leadership group of the crew, they are in the ready room of the Ops Center with the commander, Rawlog, and her XO, Lieutenant Jensen.
Lee, real quick, because I know how old and busted this station is, I'd be more than happy to invite the commander and her XO onto the DC to use our state-of-the-art sophisticated conference system.
Oh, that's wonderful. Give me a second, I'm breaking out my command dice here. I think you might actually have to convince her of that, because while she's not aware of all of the things that are going on, or may not be aware of all of that, she's also pretty proud, fairly territorial, and would prefer to have a meeting in her space on her terms. And she's also very busy, so she doesn't want to take the time to go someplace else to do a thing. She's like, no, we can meet in my ready room.
Oh, that's fine.
We don't have a conference room ready to go, but we can certainly meet. If you want to convince her elsewhere, you can certainly use a presence type of role or whatever to say, hey, it'll be easier.
I've got my team, and so there's going to be like 8 people. Will that all fit? So my main thrust.
Her ready room is big enough for everybody.
All right. Well, I don't want to...
Correction, she says her ready room is big enough for everybody.
Yes. So I don't want to invoke any suspicion on that part. So I'll be like, okay, it was just a friendly offer. We can take my space or yours, either way. So we'll all head over.
It is now the 29th. There's been work that's been going on, basically an extension of work that had been being done to get to the final results. So it is later in the day, around 6 p.m. Earth Standard Time in the evening. 1800 and on the 29th, and she has you come over. You're going through the Op Center. The Op Center looks like it's polished and work. Like the equipment looks a bit outdated. Definitely, I'd say ambassador class style, so just pre-TNG era, as far as the physical equipment, but it does look like when you're looking at the displays, it is current as far as the displays. So they are actively upgrading things around here, so you can see where things are done. But the op center seems to be operating on a top level, and what leading up to the op center is where the station literally converts from its old style, older equipment to that. So they clearly are doing all the right things, focusing areas, focusing their efforts, and the goal seems to be to improve things. When you get into her ready room, it is also as well outfitted and actually has all new equipment. This is actually pretty state of the art. And with that, you notice that it is smaller than she led you to believe. There is, in fact, room for everybody, but what you also know as you enter, she's got some staff that have literally brought in physical chairs to put there, and everybody is almost shoulder to shoulder within this space. As I said, plenty of room.
Quite. So, leave from her team, who all is there? Because I was just expecting her and her XO.
That's it for her team. The folks who were bringing in chairs, they just literally dropped off the chairs, put them into place, and exited.
Excellent. All right, then. I'm like, Commander, my team has been hard at work with yours. We've seemed to get the internal sensor systems online. We're doing this. However, while we were repairing those systems, my chief engineer, Mr. Tenari here, found this, and I tossed the pad on the table. It appears there's a computer virus in your system that is blocking anyone's ability to read that the lower half of the station is completely functional, online, operational, powered, and accessible by shuttle bay. Would you care to explain?
She looks at it.
My is deliberately being open to any emotional changes.
Yeah, my whole thing is to rip the emotional Band-Aid off, and so if she goes, oh crap, they found us, the two Beta Zeds can get them.
I'm going to describe the scene, and then for those who are viewing empathically and by other means, I'll ask them their method and give them their specifics that they perceive in the immediate. But the first thing I'm going to do is give the description that is out in front and obvious for everybody. The look is she's definitely taking you seriously, and she is reading the information. As she goes through the information that you have provided, when she gets to the end, you see what is a stoic face changing to a concerned facial expression, changing to a bothered facial expression, then changing to a shocked, upset, angered, and ending on a determined facial expression. She's a Cation, and anybody who has owned cats for any great length of time, they show their emotions in very unique ways, in that everything will either look like they're absolutely cool with it or they're absolutely pissed at it. And there's not a lot of in between, but that quick transition is very fast. So she went from shocked to downright pissed in a hurry. Then you see that she gets very professional. Lieutenant, and she hands him the pad. He heard what you said, looks at it very briefly, and he looks scared. We could be being infiltrated at this moment. And he looks at his commanding officer, says, Captain, can we release a shuttle to cover that area visually right away, just in case anything happens? And she's like, yeah. So he hits his comm badge and says, I need a shuttle to move to station sector 4 point wideband scan.
Hold off on that.
Hold that directive. Now we'll stop, and we'll go to our empaths to give them their reads. I'll start with Lieutenant Narilla.
So I'd like to be open to both the empathy and also the opportunity that if there might be more information with the ESP, which I haven't used in this game yet, but the description says that it's really open to the game master, but every hint costs 1 threat. So I'm focusing a lot on the emotions and not so much of the content.
What I'm going to do is go through the empathy bit and the base, and then I'm going to go to Glenn, and then I'll come back to what you want to spend for hints, and I'll go from there. The base is pretty simple. She seems legitimately like she went through the emotions that I described. When she gets to that I'm going to be stoic and professional phase, you can tell that she's very worried. Like, whatever this is, she is concerned. She is worried. She feels threatened. She thinks that this is dangerous. All of those things. She went from fight or flight mode into fight mode, and then her way of processing fight mode is to be a professional Federation officer. And as far as the lieutenant, he went immediately through the emotion of, oh my God, what is happening? And then my job is to protect lives and protect these lives in particular. I have to get these people safe. I got to make sure that nothing is happening to us. Najar?
Lieutenant Najar is listening to their words and watching their faces and body languages, blending his focus of criminal psychology behavior analysis with his empathy as he reads emotional states, looking for conflict, looking for things that don't match, looking for an expression that tried to be just, oh my God, shock too, but instead was, how did they find out? Shock. He's looking to see if the baseline underneath matches, but he's also, anytime he's messing's the wrong word, but peering into the emotions of new people, he's looking for normal emotional patterns versus Epsilon infection. That's a standard. To
the Epsilon thing, no hits. Epsilon does not appear to be any part of this. I'm going to give you a roll with Insight Security based on your behavioral analysis type stuff. Mm-hmm. And your difficulty here is going to be a 2. And it's only a 2 because the challenge with the lieutenant being a Cation is not so much a metaphysical or Cations are just harder to read. It's more that she's a trained Federation officer. She's got a really good poker face. In fact, that's a trait for she actually plays poker. That's what makes that a little bit more difficult. It is more what she does that makes it difficult more than a natural type of thing. So it's a little bit more difficult. I'm only going to have you roll once, so it is 1 for the other guy, 2 for her, but 2 is the challenge overall. So if you only get 1, you're fine. You'll at least be able to get your information from him.
Okay, I will buy a die with 1 threat.
We are back to 7, baby.
Okay, and I'm going to re-roll that nat 20. 14 and a 16, which are both successes, and then a nat 20. Let's see what that turns into. A 19, so still a failure, but not a critical failure. 2 successes.
Everything seems to be legit. They are concerned about the station. There's a hint of worried about their jobs in there as well. There's a bit of self-preservation involved, not on my job is to protect these people around me, but there's some career worry there. Who wants to be the person who allowed a secret base to be set up within your base? You look dumb when that happens, but that's very minor. Like, it's there, but it's more like a tertiary concern. The primary concern is plugging the hole and stopping the threat.
After his read, Najar gives Commander Tobor a very slight nod.
Back to Lacey. You have your ESP, and for threat, you can pick up some really deep and interesting observations and issues. How many threat would you like to spend?
I think I'd like to use 1 threat.
Okay. Confirmed they are not involved in any of this mess. They are victims, is number 1. But there's a deep thing that you notice from the commander. She seems to be a fairly intuitive individual, and what you're picking up on her is she's actually running through her mind all the people she's met recently, and that kind of caused her additional concern. And she absolutely triggered on Magra, and she absolutely triggered on a computer scientist who cycled in about 2 months ago. And that computer scientist, and she's remembering the different systems and things that computer scientists worked on. And as she's thinking about it, it was like, this is just one thought throughout a bunch of thoughts, trying to like, who did I meet? What did I do? She's literally trying to investigate in her own mind, her own memories, what happened. And she passed on that, lingered on it a little bit longer than some of the other things, but very quickly her mind is flashing to, he worked on environmental control systems. He worked on computer security systems. He worked on internal sensor systems. He was part of the original programming. And she does remember that individual's name, and she remembers who that individual reported to at Starfleet Command. And she remembers all of these things. She's very smart. There are a lot of smart captains in Starfleet. That's a major thing for her. Like, she is hyper intelligent, but she tends to get in a lot of trouble. You also pick up on that. She's like, I'm going to get busted again. So you're picking up on why she got stuck in this podunk station, despite what she's clearly a very capable administrator. But she definitely remembers all of those things about the individual. And most importantly, she also remembers that individual also checked in 3 shipments into their cargo bay on a ship that left, that still had weight on it that was not what it should have been when it left their bay, and it was longer going to warp leaving the station than it should have. But then she remembers hearing a report from another station, because she thought it was odd at the time, and checked, and she's like, oh, they got here perfectly fine. There's like a weird time delay, like they got where they were supposed to be about an hour later than they were supposed to be there, and the extra weight that they had when they left this station was not with them when they got to the next station.
So during the meeting, I'll keep that to myself, but I will, as soon as I can, report this information back to the commander when we're in a private and secure space.
Fair enough. But I will have looked over at Najjar. He gave his whatnot. Commander, it seems like you are not involved in this conspiracy, so that's good for your sake. How would you like to deal with it?
Of course we're not involved in this.
That be as it may. How would we like to solve
Let me be clear with you. I've gotten in a lot of trouble in the course of my career, and I am probably a commander because of that trouble. But don't ever question my loyalty to the Federation. Not ever, not once. That's your one strike against me. Don't do that again. I can and will be trusted. Are we clear? And you can see that this Cation, her hair is like standing on end. You can see the arch in her back. She's literally in that I'm about to shred you kind of mode. She's angry when her loyalty was questioned. You are now at a raw log -1 for any kind of social interaction for a while.
I needed to be sure and understand what the situation is before taking action. I'm glad that it turns out that you are on our side. So I am going to redeploy my bots that are out to cover the entry points. Mr. Najjar, I want security teams on board the station, and we're going to go down and investigate what is down there. Oh, and the Klingons know. Or at least Mulgra suspects something.
I thought there was something weird about her. At this point, I'm going to go back to Adam, because Adam, you had tried to interject, don't send ships. Do you want to follow up on that thread?
So when their XO is looking at me like, why wouldn't I do that? I'm going to look at him and simply say, whatever's down there, we do not want to alert it until we're ready. There is no immediate threat that wasn't already here.
He looks to his CO, and she looks at him. She starts to reduce that I'm ready to fight you, Tobor, bit, and she seems to be calming down a bit, and I say a bit. For those empaths in the air, she's still pretty pissed, but she's again reverting to that more professional mode, and she simply says, they're right. They think ready to pounce on us. We need to be ready to pounce on them.
Najjar will pipe in with, is there anything on that side of the station that could be that's in need of legitimate maintenance? Not necessarily on the station itself, it could be further out, but an excuse for a single craft to be on that side to provide some form of visual since we're completely blind.
I will actually point out at that pad. I'll actually hand you the pad that I have, which shows a flight plan that you could use to get into the area without notice.
Without notice from the station, I assume whomever is using the second half of the station.
That is true.
Sees
That's a good point.
It is at this time that you are all aware that you have Klingons with you, and their shuttle actually has a cloaking device.
But
They brought their own shuttle?
Airship with us?
The station has Klingon shuttles.
That's interesting.
That's the next question then. Is this an unsanctioned Starfleet operation or a non-Starfleet operation? Commander, do you have any thoughts or possible opinions?
If it's sanctioned, it's not sanctioned through my command structure. But
Indeed.
there was a computer person who cycled through, was working on a bunch of the systems that might be impacted. He reported to Starfleet Command, specifically Starfleet Intelligence, because we're a station setting up to observe and map. It didn't cause too many red flags, but I just didn't like the feel of them, so to speak.
Who was this?
You have good instincts, it would seem. And Lee, this correlates with the time that Tanari said the new power has been operational in there, or?
No, the new power stuff was in there before, but some of the cutoffs and connectivity that Tanari was talking about does correlate when this person was in there. So the work that they were doing was basically finalizing all the stuff that Tanari was able to reveal. So equipment was in place. Equipment was set up previously. So this looks like it was a long-term operation. You all have figured out that about the time that Starfleet Command said, hey, let's start mapping this joint. Let's occupy this existing station versus by building a new station. So at least we start our operations without expending too many resources. Around that time is when that started some of this, bringing in the new equipment and setting this up. Basically, there was an effort to conceal this place the moment they found out Starfleet was coming back to this station. So likely in operation before, they started covering up as Starfleet started arriving. That guy came in to finalize it before Starfleet got here and set up big, good sensors to do big, good things.
Got it.
On the outside, we weren't able to scan the closed sections of the ship because of the composition of your hull, but now that we are aware of the virus, can we work around that and use internal sensors from the station to scan those decks and get an idea of what's down there?
A great plan, Mr. Najjar, but if we disable the virus, it could alert whomever.
I wasn't suggesting disabling it, sir. I was suggesting that even if they lack someone who could do it, I'm confident that Tanari could find a workaround that went past the virus to allow us to scan.
Possibly. But again, there is a risk. If we turn the internal sensors on and do a ping, it could alert whoever's down there. Because one must assume they're watching everything we're doing.
Indeed.
Commander Rollock.
Yes.
You said you remembered the individual's name.
Yes. The individual was a Tellarite.
I actually say that Kolokum.
No. But I recall that name from some report or something. What do you know about that person?
She's a person of interest in another investigation.
You're playing coy, Lieutenant Commander. I'm asking for details because it may help me remember.
That I can help with. What we're investigating is under a higher... I'm sworn to secrecy on. However, I can tell you that the... Kum was on temporary assignment to DS9. Her previous engagement was on a starbase where some under-the-table intelligence operations were occurring. So as I'm saying this to her, I am trying to I'm pausing as if I'm processing, I can tell her this, I can't tell her this, and I want to make it very clear to her in my appearance that I'm trying to work with her within the bounds that I have authority to do so.
For our empaths, she is picking up what he's laying down, so she's backing off of, why are you stonewalling me? She understands what he's doing. That may or may not come across directly, depending on how you take the answer she provides. She's like, the person involved was Major Rolk, Majorolk. They reported to Starfleet Command, specifically Starfleet Intelligence, and my understanding is all of their information went to Starfleet operatives on a security station, the Federation security station near Celtech 4.
I don't even bother trying to hide the expression of son of a bitch.
Thank you.
Pretty much, in my mind, Commanders, Mr. Chivril, sir, this definitely has a link back to Celtech, then.
I don't know, and I won't choose to ask any more about that. That seems to be the issue you all are compartmentalizing. I will say this. I do know, because I had my lieutenant send some inquiries, that when we questioned their actual clearance here, the response came from a Lieutenant Commander Janak.
Oh, yeah.
Najjar doesn't hide the expression of distaste that rolls across his face.
Yes.
That's a pretty high-ranking individual in this region of space. We didn't really think much of it. We said he cleared. He was official. We let him do his work. It seems to have been top flight until we see this, that his work was top flight, but he did plenty extra.
So I guess the next question is, Commander, you and I need to decide, do we bring the Klingons in on this? I have a feeling that this is a non-Starfleet Federation operation.
Well, before I answer that question, I need to let you know I'm going to be officially asking for your assistance in getting in there. If you think that the Klingons will help us in some way doing that, then we bring them in. If you think that they will be a hindrance to us doing that, then we leave them out.
They have a cloak. They have shuttles with cloaking devices. We could literally fly right into the shuttle bay.
Only if we can get them to open up the doors. We're not supposed to know how to do that. And I have not seen anything in your research that indicates we do.
Or we could go with the sting operation and wait till someone comes in and comes out. Or we can just do it the old-fashioned way. I do Mr. Najjar's suggestion about seeing if we can't get past their computer virus without undetected.
I would certainly not like to go in blind, sir, if we can help it.
Nor would I.
How about this? We try to bypass their virus and get them to just open up the doors. We set up so we can get ships in their shuttle bay doors and teams in through the main doors simultaneously. And we try to do that as fast as possible.
Excellent. I'm going to deploy my second runabout in a way to make it, though it is appearing to be part of the mapping effort, it will in fact be maneuvering itself to do a micro burst into position and assist through the shuttle bay when our ground team breaches, assuming we can get the information we need to do to satisfy Mr. Najjar's concerns.
Provided we can actually get a decent scan, sir, might I also suggest that if we can manage to, at the same time we're entering the shuttle bay, use the station's transporter rooms and once we have a scan to know what areas may be safe to transport a team directly inside so that we have multiple strike teams from different directions.
It's going to have to go from pad to pad, but I know how bad it is materializing on a transporter pad with a waiting security team there.
I do know that there should be two transporters, an emergency transport and a cargo bay transport in that section. Unless they've broken one down or reconfigured.
One would assume they would. If it was hidden, they would have no reason to not do so.
Tech-wise, just because Glenn is confused, not Najjar. Why would it have to be pad to pad? People teleport directly onto the bridge of a ship?
Because this material that the station's made out of that Lee told us about.
Yeah. It's the actual trait of the station itself that doesn't allow...
that continues within the station. I figured a transporter inside the hull could transport inside the hull. That's where my thought process was.
If there's no walls or bulkheads, like a direct line beam, we could probably, but I assume there's no good way to get from...
Once we get to do those scans, let's look for a spot like that first before we go to a pad. If there's a safe spot that we can find a line through weak metal floors to be able to transport to.
Lee did confirm that there was a bulkhead between the two sections that's similar to the hull. That separates the two sections.
And Tobor is just assuming that if they're going to go through all this effort to hide this secondary base, they're not going to leave a transporter blind spot. Even without that, they could put up a transport inhibitor, blah, 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 kind of thing.
Fair enough. The good news doesn't like to make assumptions. He likes to find out the facts.
Mm-hmm. The good news is any transporter tech, specifically the ones that you have on the DC, and even the one that they do have here on this station, before you could ever beam to a spot, they would actually be checking to see where they could be beamed to. So they would confirm where safe places are, and they can report in that moment whether there's a safe spot or a not safe spot.
Now, Commander, do you have a computer specialist on your station?
Not at this time. That was the last one that was here. We have a duty crew, basically enough beyond a reconstruction crew, which is scheduled to arrive in about 3 months.
Mr. Tenari, on your team, other than yourself, who's your top computer individuals? I believe it's crewman Dry is particularly good with computers, right?
I assume you're tapping in on the comm badge?
Yes.
Let me see. Yes, Dry is.
Excellent. Do you want to, based off the data you pulled, you want to get your antenna together with him and start going over possible ways to bypass the virus without being detected to get us internal scan information first. The second option is if we just have to nuke the virus, what that would entail to regain full control of the station, in which we would then have the ability to shut off life support and power to the lower section. But I think you said it was pretty well air-gapped, right?
Yep, we'll get started on it, sir.
All right.
Okay, so we have Dry leading computer.
Crewman Dry to the bridge.
Aye, sir.
No sense of humor on that guy, though.
Oh my goodness. All right, Dry's coming to do the computer thing. Who's going to be...
Crewman Dry's from Canada.
Hey.
He likes ginger ale, too.
Dry's handling the computer piece to bypass. That leaves us with trying to figure out who's going to be running the security team, who's doing the regular breach, who's going to be running the security team that's going to beam in, and who's going to be part of the shuttle operations to cover and fly in.
Mr. Najjar?
So are we breaching manually and coming in through the shuttle bays and attempting the transport, should the scans show?
I think
we need to know whether or not we're going to have all three of those teams in place before we actually can formulate a plan for the personnel. If the B-men is not an option, then those personnel will get redirected into the other two teams.
So the B-men will be an option if the computer bypass works. That's the key. As the raw log described it, she wants to do everything all at once so that whoever's down there has to deal with everything all at once, and hopefully one of the groups gets through. She's talking about full frontal assault. Lacey, who has that ESP, I'm letting that trait ride throughout here. You can tell that she is processing this as a battle, and you are now seeing the fact that she is literally viewing this as the breach of a Jem'Hadar outpost. She is back in the Dominion War, and this is where you realize where she got in trouble and why she got busted. She was previously a captain and got busted in rank, lost her original command. It was because she went positively feral on a Jem'Hadar outpost, and all of the non-Jem'Hadar Dominion, not in addition to the Jem'Hadar, but basically all of the people that were part of the Dominion side of that battle. She tried to breach that by 15 different ways. They were starting to fail, and she literally had micro-quantum torpedoes dumped into holes into that station that she was able to breach and smoke them all. Like, she was like, I'm done. These people are not killing a single other Federation citizen. And she was very successful. She made big marks with the people she saved and the people that served with her, but Command wanted no part about putting her on the front line of anything. There was no
actual... to reel her back in a little bit.
Yeah, there was no actual cover-up of what she did. They're very honest about this battle was not the way we want to do things, but they're like, she will never command a starship again. She will never be in a first contact situation. We can't quite honestly put a collar on this one. So, and she is treating this like that. She's in that mode. She is now like, they want to threaten me in my house, I'll show them a threat. She's ready to go. This is a warrior who has scars.
I will try to suggest, knowing it's not really my place to make suggestions about this kind of thing, but suggest that we're a little careful and think things through before we take action.
I agree, Lieutenant. From what I can tell, if this is who we think it is, they are still Federation citizens. And we need the intelligence. We need them alive.
We need them all alive if possible. Absolutely, sir.
And I say that as I piercing presence command 17 at the command at raw log of we need them alive. All of them alive.
And as much of whatever they're doing down there preserved as possible so we can see what they were up to.
You can see that she's processing that information, and there's a conflict between her logical mind and her frustrations and fears and emotions. And what you get is that guttural, I'm angry and frustrated sound that cats make. That's not quite a purr and it's not quite a growl, but you can tell there's a thing going on. And it's almost like an unconscious kind of reaction. She is completely not really able to hide a lot of this. And she then very reticently agrees. Of course, we're going to ask questions, but we're going to be prepared.
Of course. So while my computer specialists are plumbing the depths of the system, I think our best course of action is to pretend like we don't know anything's going on. So in order to not give away that we know that something's here, Mr. Najjar will begin assembling the teams on the Christian so as to minimize sensor contact from whoever's looking at us down there. We'll put in and then once we understand the paths of entry, we can put teams in. Heck, if Mr. Tenari can do his thing, maybe we just get control of the lower half part of the station and can do some cyber magic on that end of it.
How many personnel does the station have that they can contribute to this effort, aside from my security personnel and our officers? because I do not want to leave the Christian unprotected.
They have enough security personnel that each of the teams will have 3 of their personnel with it. So basically, for every one of you in the command crew, there are 3 of their security personnel.
So of our 9 security, if we did 2 of ours with each team of their 3 for 5 plus whoever's leading them is 6 minimum. 3 security on the Christian.
Every section is well covered. The lieutenant actually specifically says, I'll make sure we pick people that I've either known personally for a long period of time or that have been vetted for special ops. We're going to assume all the different teams are assembled and ready. I'm going to have Dave roll for the computer breach. It is something that has to be hacked, but because it was done to be secretive and unknown, it is not particularly heavy. It's just well hidden because you know it, and it's not well hidden. The difficulty is very low. It's only a 1.
So then, in that case, I'm going to leave Mr. Chizilrer in command on the bridge of the ship.
Dave?
I'm going to spend a threat to get an extra dice.
All right.
I think it's pretty obvious my computer focus comes into play.
Yep. And
17, 10, and 1, so that's 3 successes.
All right, that's going to give you two momentum. You do have the ship rolling with you. I will roll that. That's an additional success.
And I'm going to roll an assist for crewman dry.
Okay.
14's not going to make it.
You are now at 6 momentum. And the bypass is successful. So you have access to internal sensors, which allows your transporter team to let you know you can, in fact, transport. It would be best to use a pad. The good news is the pad is in the cargo area. Sensors will also indicate there are 2 shuttles in the area. One is a Klingon shuttle, and the other is some kind of makeshift shuttle, warp-capable shuttle variety, almost like a mini freighter or so. And this will track with Adam's previous investigations on Celtac as the shuttle utilized by Colum Coom.
How much of a momentum spend would it be to create an advantage that my hack is unseen?
2.
I'll spend it.
Done. All right. With that, you have the ability to transport in. You have access to open the shuttle bay doors and fly in. And you have the ability to open the main doors and physically breach through the main section. Based on the configuration of this area, means you've covered all exits except for escape pods.
How many life signs?
How many life signs?
You get 5 life signs. In general, clearly people, their species, there are actually 2 Nausicaans, 1 Tellarite, and 1 Klingon. And you also get, inside of a series of boxes, multiple life signs, like large numbers of life signs. They are very small, but there are multiples of them. And there is, in a section near a life support intake valve, another pod of those kinds of life signs in a small kind of alcove closet area. It's very small, but it's right near that. And those life signs seem to be more active. The ones that are in containers are not very active, but the ones that are near that intake are very active. You will also note, because you have your sensors on, that there seems to be a combination of gases that are being piped into that area. With your previous knowledge, and Narilla, assuming you're looking at all this information as being transmitted to the group, you know that those are those agents that you were talking about, or that Magra was looking at. And with that knowledge, these things into activation, and they are not activated yet.
All right, pass this on to the teams.
All right, so the Tank Abbott will come in the front door, or the shuttle bay. Najjar, your teams go in transporter or through the front door, both. And the Eagle's going to pair off and make sure no escape pods get released. And we're going to hit them all simultaneously.
Okay. You get in. I'm going to ask for a team roll. Basically, you all do the thing, and they are all surprised because nobody was anticipating that you would hit in the way that you are hitting. Okay. You're all going to roll a d20. You're all going to tell me what your approach to your specific mission is to help intimidate them into surrendering without conflict.
I'll start. Lee, I do have the voice of authority talent, which lets me turn one die to a delta at this cost of 2 momentum or threat. So, in fact, I will do that.
Are you spending momentum or threat? You have 4 momentum.
I will do the momentum.
Roger that. Okay. And this is 2d20. Everybody gets to roll 2 dice. I will say there is an added complication of 19, though. Okay, I'll come back to you. Dave?
All right. First of all, I want to see if this comes into play. Procedural compliance. When you attempt an engineering task, you may remove any 1d20 from your dice pool before re-rolling. If you do so, you gain 1 automatic success. Can I remove one of these d20s and get us 1 automatic success?
You certainly can.
Okay. Then what I'm doing is as the teams go in, I'm getting a hold of the audio system, and I am pumping in Van Halen's Panama.
Nice. I dig
Classic
it.
music. I love it.
All right, Najjar?
And I can go ahead and roll the 1 dice remaining, right?
That is correct.
So
Not
I'm
right now, though.
Yeah, not right now. I'm going to get everybody's info, and then we're going to roll. Glenn?
After studying the schematics of the floor plans from the scans and briefly discussing with both teams which routes to take, Najjar is going to have his security teams instructed to have their phasers set to stun anyone that makes any hostile move, give anyone else an opportunity to move over and surrender, and he's going to lead the team going in via transporters.
Yep.
And we're gonna stun them like we mean it, and Najjar's team in particular is going to plot a course to that secondary chamber where the gases were being released to make sure that nobody touches anything over there.
Roger that. And Ocean?
Yeah, I am being put in charge of the overall command from the Christian. So I'm going to be looking at the overall plans and applying my own tactical knowledge to guide people in the right groups to make sure that we have the right lines of communication set up, make sure we have backup and so forth. But basically, I'm planning on running Ghost on the scenario.
Do that.
Overwatch, that's the better right.
Yep. All right. And Narella?
I think that I'm going to work on trying to stop the chemical from being pumped into the room as a way to help when we get in there that we won't be impacted by it.
As Najjar was planning on heading directly towards it, is Narilla with his team and coming directly for that area?
Okay. I would like everybody to make their rolls. In the case of Narilla, that's real. When you get to that piece, it's going to be a control science, command communications. And, okay. Excellent.
Real quickly, when an ally attempts a task, Adam, I think it would make sense if you spent them a momentum on your collaboration security. Nerlina, who probably isn't the most security-driven individual, so that if it ends up in a shooting incident, they've got your backup.
Sounds good.
You spend threat for that or momentum?
I spend a momentum.
That leaves you with 1. Okay.
And then I'm going to give Glenn, or I'm going to give Najjar, with my commanding officer role, I'm going to give him my point of determination to use.
I was going to use my point of determination.
Use them both. You're the tip of the spear.
Okay, fair enough.
What are you using your determination for?
I was going to use my value of all problems can be solved with determination and innovation as we worked out this plan, to use my determination for to turn this into the perfect opportunity to get the natural 1 on one of my d20s automatically.
Cool.
Can I do the same thing with the other point of determination?
Yeah, with the second value that applies.
All right, so I have 2 dice, both are 1s, so that's 4 successes.
Excellent. And if everybody who needs to roll would care to roll.
Yep. And the individual, you said it was going to be Rolog that was going to be using my scenario, or somebody else? Sorry.
No, Nerlina.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. She's going in guns blazing. We'll give her my control and security for this, and we'll give her
just the department. What's your security rating?
5.
5. So if it is a security task, she can use your 5 department.
If that comes in, she'll have my security score and one of my focuses. So.
Roger that.
Yeah,
definitely. Dave, how many successes?
With that automatic 1, 2.
Excellent. 1, 2. And Glenn, you automatically get 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lacey?
I rolled a 1. Is that 2 successes?
That is.
And then I rolled another success. Barely, but I got it.
All right. And Joe?
I got 2 automatic and 2 with a focus, so 4 success.
And Adam?
I rolled a 1 and an 8, so that would be 3 successes.
Okay. So that's a whole bunch of successes, and I'm basically going to use that to narrate the close of this. And essentially, when you come in, the Tank Abbott leads a charge. It's this big, beefy shuttle, just gets in. The Eagle moves into position. The DC's in position. Teams beam in. Speakers are blaring music, and everybody in that section is caught unawares. They were like moving stuff, getting things done, and what you are witnessing as you get here is packing out operation. They are literally trying to break down and leave this area. So there are all kinds of containers and stuff staged. They're clearly loading several small ships, and they're all like teams come rushing in through the main doors. There's shuttles there, music's blaring. It's very chaotic, and the team that hits the pad. They are unencumbered. There's nobody really in front of them. They're able to move to that section. Narilla, you are successful in being able to stop the flow of that gas, which slows down that interaction. And what you're looking at, I will take the rolls you have made to give you basically the success to know what you're looking at. You're looking at a clutch of Talarian hook spider eggs that have been being impacted by this gas. Your basic knowledge of biology would indicate that this could possibly cause them to grow about double their normal size. Their venom could be double its normal potencies. They could basically turn these things into an infestation of massive exterminators. They basically could kill everybody on the station without much effort, because it'd be really hard to deal with the hook spider infestation in general with their standard complement. This would be very dangerous and a very unique way of killing people.
That is incredibly concerning.
And with that information, they do surrender. They're all out. And that's when you're left with this section and you realize that they have 2 containers of those eggs as well. 2 of the containers they have are in those eggs. These containers are not the kind of containers that would actually contain hatching Talarian hook spiders. And basically, the type of radiation that is native to the briar patch, leaving this area, they would get just enough that would probably cause them to move into a hatch cycle probably within 15 to 20 minutes. And since it looks like they were set to go 1 on each of the exit shuttles that was preparing to exit, it looks like somebody basically shipped something here with the purpose of getting these crews killed.
Oh, good.
And what's in the other containers? Are those more hook spiders?
Yes, those are just regular hook spiders that have not been impacted by the gas. Though, so
It would it'd still be awful.
Yeah. Basically, you get about 300 hook spiders per container in a class 1 sized shuttle.
Yeah.
And 2 people, it would probably take effect within minutes of them going to warp. They'd literally be at warp when these things hatched, broke out of the containment, and they would be mobbed like scarabs in the Mummy.
Delicious.
Do we have any indication as to where they would have been going?
You can do a quick scan because all cargo containers have, or they will tell you. They're freaking out. You contain the things. You're not letting the hook spiders happen. You can eliminate them in the stage that they're at without any problem.
Where were they intending to go with this shipment?
They were supposed to meet another ship at other coordinates, which they will provide. Look, they're into not being killed. Once they see what you're looking at, they're traders, raiders, and pirates, right? They know what hook spiders are. When they realize that somebody was doing this, they're going to be straight up and honest with you. Somebody was trying to eliminate us. Obviously, we know things, and they were trying to kill us. So they're done with whoever they were hired by. They will give you all the info, all the intel. You can process that and get that to the right folks so you can have those leads tracked down. And even Kolo Koom is pissed that somebody was going to try to eliminate them.
Oh, she's here. Excellent.
I was about to ask if we caught the Koom person, the big name.
You did.
Perhaps Magra is here because her job, as she's scanning it and watching it, was to watch from the outside and ensure that this plan went off.
It is at this time you recognize that you don't know where Magra is.
Yeah, and I very nearly said we needed to lock her down.
All the Klingon shuttles still there.
They are.
So she's on the ship.
As a matter of fact, she is not. My massive threat spend was her hooking up a temporary cloaking device on a pod and wiring it so it couldn't be seen, and she got out of the station. As soon as none of the lead characters were on her, she was out.
We will let Vokar, son of Kreth, know what happened here, and that his science person is involved in some capacity.
Vokar is angry, not at you, angry at the fact that Klingon High Council forced the issue of somebody from her house being here. And so Vokar will tell you there have been attempts to diminish his house for quite some time. And this clearly is a way to have put the blame on us. As you do all of your scans and this wraps up, you will also find that some of the equipment that they brought did not have life signs or anything like that, but there were trace evidence of these types of chemicals and things within various pieces of luggage and equipment that they had, and it was clearly planted. They weren't things that these people remember having or know having. There was one other Klingon that left with Moger, by the way, the one Klingon that was usually with her. So both of them got away, but effectively she was planting evidence to implicate House KOTOR and basically would have just disappeared into the night. It was the plan.
Is there, knowing all that I know now, is there any connections I can draw from why she's interested in our lab specifically? Was she trying to get the materials from us? Was she trying to make sure we couldn't monitor what she was doing, or was she trying to pin some of the blame on us?
An extrapolation would be that she probably was going to try to pin some of this on you. As much blame as she could spread around, especially if she's the only one that survived, would be easy. But she clocked that members of your crew were keeping an eye on her, so she clearly dropped trying that. She basically said, I'll go for the soft target, which was the station. She already knew what she was going to do. She was basically looking to see if you had the things that would make that possible. So you did. She didn't have to plant any additional evidence because you would have had the ability to do it. It would have been helpful if she could, but she didn't get a chance, and she didn't feel comfortable, given the kind of scrutiny she had, planting evidence on the DC. She simply shifted to the fact that she had already planted evidence on the rest of the Klingon delegation and taking care of her mission on the station. But what you do know is that there's a pretty effective method of assassination that was attempted here. It's basically sneak a bunch of hook spiders in with the folks, mutate a bunch of them, and then boogie out before they can go live. It was basically she caught a ferry and attempted to assassinate people that she needed to have their mouths closed.
Yikes.
And the DC stopped her plot.
Thwarted again.
Yep. So with that, we're going to close this scene. We are going to move right into a kind of a denouement. The DC is here. Your assault took place right before midnight. As the clock strikes midnight, you realize that it was timed so that the spiders would pop out at midnight. And it's an interesting thing that it would have been Halloween night when the horror of a spider infestation would have befell the station.
Poetic.
It's funny you say that, because when you're talking about the calendars, I'm like, wow, it's right around Halloween. But I'm not going to say that because that doesn't, none of us would have found that relevant.
There were not quite enough humans involved to really pick up on the specifics of that, but that was the reason. Real briefly, the commander of the station is exceptionally happy that you all were able to help save the situation. As she's preparing to write her report, she definitely writes that the Dilamus Christian was instrumental in seeing the issue resolved, comments on your level of expertise and professionalism involved in the matter. The criminals are going to be processed by Starfleet Security, not Starfleet Intelligence. And basically the DC will be here for another couple weeks, just getting everything in, cataloging, finding out what was moving in through here and that type of thing. And basically it was a stop for clandestine efforts. Basically, this had no allegiance to any specific pirate group. It was actually Coulomb running a way station for unmentionable groups. Basically, you're a bunch of bad guys, you're being chased, you would pay Coulomb a fee to land in a space for safety. Nobody can find you, and when the authorities clear, then you get on your way. They just take a cut of your profits to do that. That was their operation, and they made good money doing it. For those who didn't have enough money to pay their price, they usually paid in information. When the station started coming, they started having additional things brought here to get set up to continue operation for as long as possible. But also being prepared to skinny out if need be. Basically, there was a Nausicaan group that was here at the time that was laying low, and there was a Klingon contingent that was here also laying low, and Coulomb was just managing the station at that time. The DC showing up, Coulomb was cut bait, let's get out of here. They had no idea that they were targets.
And Commander Rolog gets a completely functional half of the station.
Correct.
Joe, do you want to do that little coda with the inspection?
Yeah, actually, since we're on a station that can't be scanned in or out of, we pick a side room in the station and have the scene.
Sure. All right. You guys are in a side room, and what would you like to do?
Captain, that side assignment you gave me, I think I've got an idea. And before I pitch it, I do want to tell you that I can see 100 ways it can go wrong and only one way it can go right, but it's an idea. And I also want to apologize ahead of time if I'm stepping on any cultural toes.
Very well.
I have heard of a ritual the Trill have where they can separate their memories from previous lives and put it in another body.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible we could do that to have your previous host transfer the permissions of the Epsilon protocol over to you?
If only we had a spare changeling lying around.
Unfortunately, I don't think that would work.
Doesn't the Michael Collins have a changeling officer aboard?
Yes.
I don't think that would work, Tanari. I had a conversation with the protocol, with the DC, as it likes to be called. I asked him, them, not quite sure what we're referring to it as, but I asked them whether or not, regarding the intricacy of it taking command changes from Narila as opposed to Sabian. I was thinking much of the same thing that you were. Is there a way that we could leverage some sort of memory? Is there a passcode? Is there something? The DC advised me that it was very well aware of the fact that this was a problem, and they saw it as a programming error, not as something to unlock. So before we go monkeying with it, as it already does have their eyes on you, it would be good to determine exactly what you want to get out of that scenario before we take any actions towards that endeavor.
Indeed. And we will not take any action until we are docked and powered down at Astalin Station.
Like I said, it's an idea.
Are we sure that Astalin Station and the other three ships, don't also have this type of coding?
No, the memory cores of the Danubes are too rudimentary to house the sophistication of this. And as far as I'm aware, the DC protocol is wholly contained. It could probably move into Astalin Station, given enough time and effort and connectivity, but I don't think it could create a copy of itself. Think is the operative word there.
The only other thing I can think of immediately, without having examined it further, is power the ship down, wipe the core, and restore from backup.
I'm not entirely sure that would work.
Again, I haven't had a lot of time to work on this. These are just immediate ideas.
Again, to what end?
Get control of the ship back.
I have control of the ship. A smile. The only thing we can't do right now is change the programming. For all intents and purposes, is locked in form, just like any sentient being. It still recognizes me as the commanding officer. The Dilamus Christian will follow my orders as long as it does not conflict with its prime directive programming. But I can't open it up and tinker around with it. Which, honestly, I'm fine with not having the ability of tinkering with anything that's verging on the border of being sentient or of artificial intelligence.
I don't mind telling you, Captain, I've had nightmares of that big purple button.
Of pushing it or of not pushing it?
Both.
Good. Then you're the right man for the job still.
In any case, these are just ideas I've had, and I just wanted to bring them to your attention.
Trust me, I've been thinking the same thing, but again, I've been more surreptitiously going over the coding and the programming and from what I can remember, and Najjar and I may be able to work with the DC and figure out what the programming error is and essentially try and provide cyber medicine to fix the error.
Well,
without.
And these were also quick fixes as opposed to having to go through the code line by line, which, with everything else on my plate, I don't quite have time for.
Nope, that's something that's been one of my spare time hobby projects. Right now, I would ask you to continue to be your paranoid self and draw the DC's attention. Because if it is concerned about you, it means it part of its focus is in that direction. But like any other sentient creature, likely if you don't do anything overtly to harm it, it's programmed to protect the crew. Unless the crew becomes a threat to the mission. So, don't become a threat to the mission. I smile and laugh.
So in addition to everything else, I've got to worry about the ship looking over my shoulder. So are we going to pick up a ship's counselor anytime soon?
We could stop by Aslan. I'm sure they've got some good counseling.
Most of my training has been with criminal psychology. I do have a solid understanding of the workings of the mind, Tanari, if you need somebody to lean on.
I may take you up on that.
That's going to be one heck of a poker game. Good work, everyone, and I appreciate this quick huddle up with the team. If anyone has any other thoughts or suggestions we don't want to share outside of this non-penetrable room?
No, sir.
All right. Then let's head back before our presence is missed.
Excellent. As you spend about a week here at the station and you're getting ready to leave, the last scene before we close for the evening is personal goodbyes. Rollag and Lieutenant Jensen. Commander Rollag asks permission to come aboard the Dilamus Christian.
Of course.
Meets with you and your staff in your conference room, and she says, earlier I was hesitant to come aboard your station because I felt it was important to be in a position of power and be on my station. I also became very angry when you appeared to not trust me. It's been brought to my attention, she half seriously but half jokingly glares at Jensen, that in your way you were all doing what I was doing. Mission first, pleasantries second. She looks at Narilla and she says, and I appreciate the effort to make sure I do things in the correct way.
I nod.
Captain, crew of the Dilamus Christian, you have a friend in me. And if you ever have need of our staff, or our little secret hidey hole, it's yours. And I also have set up a specific cloaked transmission buoy, a gift from our friends the Klingons. If any group or organization, legally or officially, takes command of that little hidey hole, a secret buoy will be sent towards Aslan Station. You all will have the key codes to decipher that information.
I appreciate your respect and your trust, Commander. It is a hard thing to have a fellow officer stare at you as though they can't be certain of loyalties, but we are operating in extraordinary times, in extraordinary measures, and your reaction itself proved to me and my team that you were as equally unaware of what was going on as we were. And since then, your demeanor has been nothing short of exceptionally professional. I appreciate that. And you as well have a friend in the Dilamus Christian.
Then we part as friends, and we'll share information on the coming threats. And with that, we're going to call it an evening. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time tonight.